Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Bucky Brooks of the NFL Network has just released his first mock draft of the offseason, and in this one we're going to be breaking it down with the top 10 picks. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in. So first things first, Bucky has the Jacksonville Jaguars going with tackle from Alabama, Neal, and this is definitely understandable. I mean, right now, there's really only 3 prospects in consideration for that first overall pick, and by the way, I know that we're in mid-January here, so there's still so much time left between now and the start of the NFL draft, but it's really looking like it's going to be either Neal, Aiden Hutchinson, or Thibodeaux. The good news for the Jaguars and the Jaguars fans, whoever player you pick here is going to be a massive upgrade and a cornerstone of the franchise to go along with Trevor Lawrence here. The question, do you try to get after the quarterback or do you try to protect the quarterback? Do you go defense or do you go offense? And I really don't think you could go wrong here if you're Jacksonville. I think if I was in charge, I would go defense because the thought of either pairing a Thibodeaux or Hutchinson along with a Josh Allen on the other side is insane. I mean, you can make the argument that would be the best young pass rushing duo in the NFL, okay? And that's very, very hard to pass up. But on the other hand, we all know Trevor Lawrence is the prize jewel of the Jaguars organization. You have to protect him. He looked a lot better when he had time to throw. And let's face it, you can't make throws when you're constantly lying on the turf. So you have to protect Lawrence. Neal not only would just come in and do that, start immediately at right tackle or potentially left tackle, he also has the versatility to play guard if you really, really need him to. I highly doubt he would play guard if he's the first overall pick for Jacksonville, but you also have Travis Etienne coming back from injury, a first-round pick from last year, former Clemson Tiger along with Lawrence, so not only would Neal be helping Trevor Lawrence in his development, but he's also helping Etienne's development as well by being that dominant force in the running game. So next up, Bucky has the Lions going with defensive end from Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson, an absolute slam dunk pick here. I mean, Aiden pretty much checks every single box that the Lions need at this point. They need help getting after the passer. They need help on the edge, although I will say Charles Harris was a nice find for that Lions staff. I think Hutchinson would come in, fit the culture. He would be that aggressive leader on the defense side of the football. I don't really feel like, although I do like a lot of the young players that the Lions have defensively, I don't feel like they have a guy with the amount of upside that Hutchinson provides. He fits what Aaron Glenn wants to do defensively. Perfect fit for that system. However, Aaron Glenn could become the next head coach of the Denver Broncos. We'll see how that plays out, but as of right now, Hutchinson to the Lions makes so much sense, and we didn't even talk about, him growing up in Michigan, the hometown hero kind of thing. I think it just checks so many different boxes. He provides so many different things. And by the way, if you're Detroit, you're in a win-win. I mean, if the discussion is between Hutchinson and Thibodeaux, you're in a fantastic position. Next up, Brooks has the Texans going with Thibodeaux, edge rusher from Oregon. Another home run pick here. I mean, the Houston Texans need some franchise players. They have to, you look at that team, it's filled with one-year contracts. It's filled with unproven players. Thibodeaux, I mean, man, this guy's absolutely electrifying, not only just from a physical standpoint, but from a production standpoint as well. He's been the guy since day one, #1 high school recruit coming out of LA, commits to Oregon, does not disappoint at all. Three straight years of production. Now, I will say this about Houston. We don't know what defensive scheme is going to be implemented. We don't know who the head coach is going to be. So as far as the system fit, we're going to have to just put a question mark there. But the good news for the Texans fans, Kayvon is pretty versatile, right? I feel comfortable with him as a stand-up guy or as a hand-in-the-dirt edge rusher. I mean, you look at that team, I really like Grenard, racking up 8 sacks in only 13 games this season. That was a really awesome find for, Houston here. But this Texans team, they need more. They need more cornerstones. Thibodeaux provides that. Next up at spot number 4, Brooks has the Jets going with Ikem Ekwonu, tackle from NC State. This definitely feels like a Joe Douglas draft selection. We know he loves the offensive line. We know he wants to build it up. We know we have to protect Zach Wilson. We know Morgan Moses is a free agent at right tackle. Mekhi Becton missed the entire season outside of that week 1 performance against the Carolina Panthers, in which he had to leave early. He had some injury issues before that with the concussion and the plantar fasciitis. Ikem is nasty. He is absolute dominant. I mean, he's an animal in the run game. Let's be honest. I mean, this guy would come in and immediately be our starting right tackle right off the bat. He is that good. Okay, now the question is, Does Ikem's stock rise or fall throughout the process? Combine, pro day, I think Ikem's definitely going to be a riser. And I could very well see Ikem being the pick here. Here's the catch. Free agency is before the draft. So we're going to have, I feel like, a better picture of what's happening with the offensive line after free agency. If we bring back Morgan Moses, George Fant still on the roster, and Mekhi Becton, is cleared to play, everything is smooth sailing in that department. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He's, maybe lost some weight. Then maybe tackle isn't really the biggest need. Let's say that Moses goes and signs elsewhere, okay? He's a starter on another team, and Mekhi Becton's injury continues to linger. He's not getting that much better, or it's at a slower pace. I mean, when the injury initially occurred, back at the start of the season, it definitely looked, optically like a season ender, but the expectation was that he was going to be back this season, but it kept getting pushed back. Long story short, he missed the entire year, okay, as we all know. So there's a chance Ikem could be the pick here, and honestly, if that is the case, if we need help at tackle, I would love it. I mean, I think he would come in and instantly be that day one enforcer on the offensive line, specifically in the running game. He kind of has that Becton quality where you could just run behind him, and he's never going to get tired. He's never going to be, winded or anything like that, having to come off the field or, complain or be kind of that weak-minded player. He is nasty, man. He is aggressive. He is violent. A Joe Douglas type of guy. Next up at spot number 5, Brooks has the Giants going with Charles Cross, tackle from Mississippi State. This is another player that I feel like is going to be one of the risers after the draft process is done, post-combine, post-pro day. I think what he was able to do in the SEC shouldn't be overlooked, and obviously it's not, he has him as a top 5 pick here, but as a pass protector, man, Charles Cross really did a great job of just holding his own out there. That's an offense that throws the football quite a lot. Now, granted, a lot of it is underneath, a lot of it is short passing. The football is leaving the quarterback's hands pretty quickly. There's always options. There's always, little crossing patterns, little mesh routes. But man, in the SEC, going up against some stacked defensive lines like Texas A&M, like Auburn, like Alabama, I mean, just that entire SEC West, it's loaded. I mean, it is absolutely loaded. I look at Cross's fit with the New York Giants. Again, much like the Texans and the Jaguars, we don't know what offensive scheme is going to be in place. We don't know who the head coach is going to be. We don't know the identity of the team. But what we do know is that the Giants need help at tackle. Solder, utter disappointment. I actually believe he's set at the open market. I could be wrong on that. But Andrew Thomas was a former top 5 pick. I like Thomas. I'm not in love with Thomas, but he's definitely showed some really promising things, really good things moving forward. I think Cross would come in and immediately, right, obviously be a day one starter. And I think that's what the Giants need. We have to figure out, I mean, you look at this Giants roster, it's a lot like Denver, right? They have so many things figured out. They have big contracts. They have talent defensively. They have offensive weapons, but the wins are not there. So you have to be able to select guys that will be able to help out not only in the short term, but the long term. And I look at Cross as not only just a safe player, but a player that would come in and fill a huge need. Okay, so at pick number 6, Bucky has the Carolina Panthers going with cornerback from Cincinnati, Ahmad Gardner. Now, this one's kind of interesting because I love Ahmad Gardner as a prospect. I love how he attacks the ball carrier, attacks, the players that he's going up against. He just plays the game with such a sense of aggression. It just draws you in. He can hang by himself on the outside. Defensive coordinators will be drawn to that ability. But my problem with this pick is that it's the Carolina Panthers themselves. I really don't feel like investing the 6th overall pick in another cornerback will put this team over the top. I mean, yes, you can make an argument, hey, maybe they won't bring back a Dante Jackson in free agency, but they invested a top 10 pick last year in J.C. Horn at the cornerback position. They went out and they traded for C.J. Henderson, and he's going into year 3 of his rookie deal, so he still has, a lot of potential, a big upside. And they also went out and signed Stephon Gilmore last season. So looking at that defense, they have some solid playmakers, and they had last year had 4 capable cornerbacks on the roster, and this team still ended up with 6 wins. Okay, I mean, they're picking the 6th overall. They're in the top 10 for a reason. I feel like tackle is the biggest need, but hey, Charles Cross is gone. Ikem is gone. Who else? Neal off the board. Quarterback, that's obviously kind of the elephant in the room here with Carolina, but I really feel like Tepper, Rule, they're going to make that aggressive push for a Deshaun Watson, a Russell Wilson. They were really, really close in acquiring Matt Stafford last season. Who knows who it'll be? Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins. We could see Aaron Rodgers. There could be a million guys on the move here. So this one is just interesting. Okay, is it worth drafting a cornerback who might not even be cornerback 1 of the team moving forward with the 6th overall pick, or would you try to trade down with the team that's maybe quarterback needy, quarterback hungry to move back and acquire more draft picks? But I don't know. I just feel like right now, if the board plays out this way, Carolina's just in between a rock and a hard place. Next up at spot number 7, Brooks has the Giants going with David Ojabo, outside linebacker from Michigan. Now, to me, this definitely feels like a long-term play. We just talked about the Giants before. This is a team that has the offensive weapons. They have a lot of pieces, a lot of positions figured out. They have a lot of money invested in this team. Although we don't know who the head coach is going to be, we don't know what systems are going to be in place. But the luxury of having 2 top 10 picks allows you to swing for the fences with one of them. David Ojabo is a guy that physically he's, it's crazy. The first thing that pops in my mind when I think about David is potential. I mean, the ceiling is crazy. This guy has the potential to be one of the better pass rushers, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL if he receives that good coaching. Now, again, this goes back to who the Giants are going to be bringing in. Will they retain Patrick Graham? We'll see what happens. But David Ojabo has that speed off the edge. He's extremely explosive, had a ton of production last season at Michigan. There's a lot to like, but Ojabo is pretty raw. So again, with having those 2 top 10 picks, you solidify the tackle spot going with Charles Cross, according to this mock draft earlier. And now you can take that swing, go for the fences, and select the David Ojabo. I don't think Giants fans would be, pissed off, angry, upset, disappointed if this is what the Giants were walking away with on draft night. At pick 8, Brooks has the Atlanta Falcons going corner from LSU, Derek Stingley. I love this. When I think about what A.J. Terrell did this season under the guidance of Dean Pease, being such a young corner, he truly showed that he is a cornerback 1 in this league. He is still a young player. He is still on his rookie contract, and he is going to be in Atlanta for years and years and years. To think about adding another potential cornerback 1 to this team is insane in Derek Stingley. We all saw what this guy was capable of back his his freshman season at LSU in 2019. Elite. I mean, this guy was flat out dominant. Production, numbers, everything. Derek Stingley was, he was projected as a top 3 pick after his freshman season. He was that good. The problem, following 2 seasons, they were riddled with injuries. They just never quite lived up to that first season, right? So that's the risk you take here. But I think the positional need, right, at corner for the Falcons, when I'm looking at that team, Derek Stingley might be too good to pass up at this point in the draft. And thinking about what could happen at the cornerback position with AJ and Derek, 2 potential lockdown guys for at least the next 5 years, that's crazy to think about. That is truly, truly insane. Next up at pick 9, Brooks has the Denver Broncos going quarterback from Pitt, Kenny Pickett. Now, you look at Denver, much like the New York Giants, they need a head coach. They have offensive weapons, tight end, running backs, wide receivers. They have some pieces on the offensive line. They have a lot of things figured out. Defensively, guys like Justin Simmons, and the list goes on and on. Denver has a ton of great players, and overall, they had a solid year. It wasn't, a fantastic year. It wasn't some train wreck either. This team has the talent. This is one of those squads that I feel like is truly maybe a piece or 2 away from actually being a wild card team next season. So you look at where the Denver Broncos lack, and of course the quarterback position comes up. Drew Lock hasn't really worked out. Teddy Bridgewater isn't the long-term franchise guy, but Kenny Pickett's interesting. Okay, he has the arm strength. He possesses a little bit of mobility, a big body guy, obviously insane season back at Pitt with Whipple at OC. To me, I think the draft process is going to be big. I don't think we have the quarterback rankings, if you will, set in stone. I think Willis can take a huge jump. I think Carson Strong can take a massive jump forward, especially after the Senior Bowl, Combine, Pro Days. We still have so much time before now in the NFL, the start of the NFL draft. I understand it now, right? Because right now Kenny Pickett is the consensus quarterback one. It'll be interesting to see if Denver maybe pulls the trigger on a veteran, superstar like a Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or something like that, potentially Deshaun Watson this offseason. But, in this case, I'm assuming they don't, and they hang on to this 9th pick and they go with Pickett. Personally, I can't be mad at that. I understand that they have a need at the quarterback position. You have your chance. Every single quarterback in this class is still on the board at this point. You have your pick, and Brooks has the Broncos going with Pickett. And last but not least, at spot number 10, Bucky Brooks has the New York Jets selecting wide receiver from Ohio State, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson in this offense, I feel like could be electrifying, right? Just off of play action, in the slant game, in the screen game, just the short passing. I feel like, with Zach Wilson's quick release, with his arm strength, I feel like getting Garrett Wilson the football needs to be, high up on the list of priorities for Mike LaFleur in this Jets offense. Now, really the question really isn't, is Garrett Wilson good? Will he fit the system? Will he fit the culture of what the New York Jets want to establish? We already have all those answers. I think the bigger question is, how will the Jets attack the wide receiver position through free agency and even trades, right? We've heard so much speculation with Calvin Ridley, maybe Amari Cooper, maybe DK Metcalf. Who knows what happens with the New Orleans Saints, right? There could be some guys on the move. They're way over the cap. Will the Jets maybe trade a 2nd-round pick for a wide receiver? If that's the case, will they target a wideout at spot number 10? Or do they go in, because Kyle Hamilton is still on the board here. Maybe you can go after a corner. Maybe you can go after a Tyler Linderbaum, a Devin Lloyd. There's so many different directions that this Jets team can take here. But according to Brooks, he has them going with Garrett Wilson. And I got to be honest with you, if we walk away on draft night, day one of draft night, with Ikem Ekwonu and Garrett Wilson, and again, obviously, I don't know what happens with free agency and all that stuff, I would be totally satisfied. I think right now a blueprint in the NFL is getting young quarterbacks weapons, right? That's kind of been the MO of the Pittsburgh Steelers for years and years and years. Think about that team: Juju Smith, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Chase Claypool. Like, it's just stacked. It's stacked. We've seen what the Cincinnati Bengals have done. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase. I mean, the list goes on. Like, it's crazy. Like, you have to, I guess, let me scratch that. You don't necessarily have to supply your team with an excess of weapons, but it definitely does not hurt. It only bolsters the offense, right? It only does good things moving forward. So I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. How did you like this mock draft by Brooks? Did you like who your team came away with? And specifically for the New York Jets, or for the Jets fans out there, Ikem at 4, Wilson at 10. Would you be satisfied? For me, the answer is yes. Let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to check them out. And as always, go Jets.